Welcome ladies and gentlemen, Tactical Lich here, and today we are in a battle of patch 2.3 in Total Warhammer 3 multiplayer. Not long ago the patch was dropped, and as a result we have some nicely discounted state troops. Swordsmen now cheaper than ever before, 375 gold. This is the first time they ever receive a price reduction since the first game ever came out, and as a result we are going for full Mantide here, inspired by an earlier battle submitted by Mr. Teufel. Now, for the army build, a full front line of swordsmen flanked by flagellants. In the middle, the unbreakable Sigma Suns. At the back, there are more state troops in the form of dirt cheap Free Company militia, we showcased them the other day. And then on the flank, some spears who also receive price reduction, flanking the Free Company militia. At the back, a bit of mobility here, Empire Knights, which is why we are not going for a full 20 stack army since these Empire Cavalry are quite expensive. Nonetheless, we are pretty much there with 18 or 19 units in the entire army. As for spellcasting department, we have Bright Wizard with Fireball to snipe out artillery and whatnot, and then of course Burning Head to clear out Skaven chaff. And leading the army, Volkmar the Grim on his Volkswagen, a very nice powerful lord here, using the mass plowing through Skavens, dropping Soulfire Bombardment to clear out a bunch of chaff and then banishing the Skaven horde into wherever they came from. In the opposite side, we have the Skaven army here going for numbers game as well, with a whole lot of clan reds at the back, clan red spears, using these Skaven chaff as a buffer line to delay my frontline advance and protect the artillery. And on the sides, we have the Red Ogres here protecting the weapons team's core, the fragile underbelly of the Skaven troops. And hidden, we have Ashen Triads, providing support to the Red Ogres like a hidden blade in the dark. And further back, we have some Clan Red Spears surrounding the Teeth Breakers, the Regiment of Renowned Rattling Guns. And then in the middle, we also have the Warp Grinders as well as the Chaff Clearing Avalanche Mortars, extremely effective in clearing out large amounts of infantry. As for mobility, we have a couple wolf rats hiding in vegetation on each side of the battlefield. For the Skaven leadership, we have a double caster core, with the Warlock Master bringing in a bunch of spells of ruin, including Warp Lightning, Flensing Ruin, and the Howling Warp Gale, as well as his item, the Brass Orb. There's also a second Lore of Ruin caster with a bunch of duplicate spells, since this is ranked ladder after all. In this battle, the Empire will try to beat the Skavens at their own game, the numbers game. If we look at the model counts, we can see that, yes, we have more men than rats on the battlefield. Due to the Skavens going with some elite weapons teams and also rat ogres, there is actually less Skaven models on the battlefield than the Empire models. So that means we can try to overwhelm our opponent's defenses with all these state troops, the swordsmen especially, just occupying all these clan rats, and then the flagellants will be able to flank around, hoping to get into the Skaven back line, punching through the clan rat defenses and then into the Skaven weapons teams. At the same time, we'll be moving up our Empire Knights, hoping to counteract the Wolf Rat mobility. The Skaven Avalanche Mortars will be blasting away at our Free Company militia, but as I've shown in a battle before, well, these dirt cheap missiles are not that important, and I can afford them getting routed by enemy artillery. With the Skaven artillery occupied by my missiles, the flagellants are able to push up without getting bombarded. Though there are still a couple units of Free Company made their way to the front line, whipping out their pistols aiming down at the Skaven Clan Rat Spears, and of course the rather low armored Rat Ogres. And the frontline swordsmen clashing against Clan Rats. And then Volkmar the Grim plunging himself into combat. The Clan Rats do not have enough mass to pin him down, so the Skavens will be activating the Rat Ogres, hoping to use these monsters to pin down Volkmar. But unfortunately, with the swordsman screening and a Soulfire Bombardment routing the Clan Rats, the swordsman will be able to push forward, scaring off the Rat Ogres, who will be switching their target into the Free Company militia, who is not exactly the greatest melee combatant. Yes, they are decent for a ranged unit, but against a dedicated melee monster, they are going to get smashed in close quarters combat. But their sacrifices are not in vain, because they are pinning down all the Skaven melee units in the front line. That means the Skaven's flanks are only protected by Clan Reds, and the Flagellants are pummeling them with their dual-wielding maces, especially with Frenzy buffing up their attack, and somehow that losing combat effect, the Strength of Penitent, is activated, providing extra physical resistance and melee defense, and then they will just be grinding through their way against the Clan Red Spears. The Bright Wizard dropped in an upgraded Burning Head, incinerating a bunch of Skavens. Although he did venture a little too close to the Teethbreakers, exposing himself to a lot of suppression fire. However, Volkmar Grimm right now has charged into the backline, silencing the Teethbreakers. Not using the Warp Grinders to pin down Volkmar is definitely a missed opportunity, but I guess there's too many units to control right now. So the Ashen Triads and the Clanrat Spears will be desperately trying to catch Volkmar Grimm, although he will be dropping a banishment here, zoning them away while Volkmar Grimm continues to rampage through the backlines, now going after even more weapons teams, the Avalanche Mortars here. And the front line is absolutely a mess here. There are way too many units to control and I'm totally mismicroing a bunch of them. The spears on the flank are standing idly because I was not able to activate them in time. And then a bunch of flagellants and swordsmen are just blobbing up in the front line. I was not able to disperse them, making them vulnerable to a nicely placed Warp Quake from the Skaven's Warp Grinders team. Multiple units got hit and further worsened their losses in combat attrition. And then there is the Miss Micro on the Bright Wizard here, exposing himself to the Teethbreakers once again, taking massive damage from all the Skaven weapons team's Gatling fire, though not before he drops in another Burning Head, scorching the Teethbreakers, using that burnt effect to lure the leadership. This allows Volkmar Grimm to charge in and straight up rout all these Skaven's weapons teams, thanks to his fear and terror. Now over here, Flensing Ruin is being dropped into the fray, draining the health of the spears, but this is not exactly the greatest use of the spell since it is better against single entities like, say, Volkmar Grimm. As for the front line, there are still some Skaven infantry fighting with the support of Warlock Master. The Ashen Triads, they do have pretty decent leadership, actually beat back the remaining swordsmen on my end, but they themselves have taken significant damage. Flagellants, as always, they are a solid, unbreakable troop, clearing out all the low-armored units on the Skaven end, and on the side there are some quite healthy swords and spears. Being a rather cost-efficient infantry with actually decent stats, they are beating down the Skaven infantry. There were some Avalanche Mortars regrouping, hoping to blast away my remaining infantry, but unfortunately for them, there are simply too many state troops for them to kill, especially with the unbreakable Flagellants continuing to fight on. Volkmar Grimm being one of the only mobility in the vicinity, as I did send out the Empire Knights to chase off some wolf rats earlier, and they will just be returning to the battlefield and are unable to support the fight. So Volkmar Grimm taking the heavy lifting once again, just doing everything himself and shutting down the Avalanche Mortars while the infantry continues to grind on against the Skaven infantry. With the swordsmen winning against the Clanrat Spears, Flagellants beating down all these Ashen Triads with the support of the Spears, and then there's also more Flagellants flooding in, cleaning up all these remaining Clanrats who try to support the Warlock Master, and then of course Empire Knights ramming into the fray, basically some standard hammer and anvil stuff, so the Red Ogres will be returning over here hoping to beat back the Empire Knights, but the Empire Knights sally out, going for a counter charge straight into the Red Ogres. The Warlock Master attempts to respond with a Flensing Ruin, but the Empire Shockcav are very effective against the lightly armored Red Ogres. At this point, with most of their weapons teams gone, it is very hard for the Skavens to make a comeback. All that's left are a couple characters, the Warlock Master and the Warlock Engineer, who does not have the Warpstone armor to grind through all these Empire State troops with that Mortis Engine effect. Though the Warlock Master is not giving up just yet, bombarding with Brass Orb and Warp Lightning, basically spamming area of effect damage, hoping to clean out all my units, doing some substantial damage. But that is not going to be enough, as I do have a lot of units remaining on the battlefield. Some spears are still quite healthy, Empire Knights running down all the routing Skavens. Volkmar Grimm is basically untouched, especially with his healing. At the back, Clanrat Spears routed by a combination of Flagellants and Spears. A fireball goes in, targeting the Teethbreakers, blasting away some models of the unit, lowering their leadership, and then in the front line, all these Skavens are on the run. Now, for the Skaven leadership, the Warlock Master on a Doom Flayer, supported by the Warlock Engineer, they're trying to fight back, but then Volkmar Grimm jumps in with the Grand Shield of Faith, providing extra damage resistance, Grand Hammer of Sigma, buffing up all the melee attack of surrounding units, and then dropping Soulfire Bombardment. The Skaven leadership just can't hold. Volkmar's terror kicks in, and that will be the end of the Skaven army. To be completely honest, I am quite confused by CA's recent changes to the Empire roster. The price reduction on the swordsmen and spears are quite bizarre since the state troops are already cost efficient as is. They don't need further price reduction. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to use this change to my benefit, and as a result, this is the battle, with a spam of state troops and then of course flagellants, free company militia, basically overloading the Skaven defenses with an equal number of Empire infantry, using those swordsmen to pin down the clan rats in front, and then use the slightly quicker flagellants to flank around, pin in the clan rats, and using their great offensive stat, clear out all these Skaven backline defenses and get into the artillery crew, the weapons teams. And of course, Volkmar the Grim using his massive wagon, busting through the Skaven front line. Not even the Red Ogres were able to pin him down, as they were busy dealing with the Free Company militia at the back. And the warp grinders were slightly mismicroed, since my opponent controlling 20 units dealing with my 19 unit army. It is quite hectic after all, and quite taxing on micro. For the damage value, there's not a lot of value, to be fair. There's a bunch of clan rats being killed by state troops being killed by clan rats. So as a result, all these infantry are not exactly earning back their own value. Really, the main powerhouse on both armies are the low entity model units. For example, here, Volkmar the Grim earning 2,500 gold and almost full health with the healing, while the Skavens here, the Warlock Master blasting away my infantry, getting quite a few kills, and of course the Avalanche Mortars always a solid artillery, though being disrupted by Volkmar the Grim not earning back too much value in this game. Teeth Breakers shot up my mismicroed Bright Wizard and also did some nice damage to other units. My opponent unable to pin down Volkmar the Grim and finish him off with Teeth Breakers really cost him the game. While over here the Empire Knights just running down a bunch of Skavens and pushing away the Wolf Rats early. Sigmar Sons earning back their own value being unbreakable troops and whatnot, so did some pretty decent work. And the Free Company militia mostly being blasted by the Avalanche Mortars, not earning back much value whatsoever. As for the Bright Wizard, he did get shot out by the Teeth Breakers, but before that he managed to dump out a bunch of Burning Heads, roasting a whole lot of Skaven, so did some nice damage value overall. And yeah, that's basically it for today's battle. The Skavens really are having a hard time these days, with the weapons teams being buggy, and then their numbers advantage are slowly nullified by all the men tied. The Empire got their price reduction in state troops, and of course don't forget about the Bretonnians getting price reduction in peasants as well. Skaven no longer is the Horde faction, when now the Empire state troops, who are better than the Skaven clan rats, are basically on par with the clan rats in terms of cost. And personally, I think that CA really needs to bump up the cost of Empire state troops once again. But before that, I suppose the men tied will be the meta, at least for the Empire. With the much cheaper state troops, it is just easier to deploy them in larger quantities and higher quality. Anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the battle, and if you do, remember to hit the like and subscribe to receive updates when I upload new videos to the channel. And if you want to showcase your own replay, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check it out. That's all for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.